look at this.
I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, I have a great husband, a great job. So I worked for 7 years for CBS News as a correspondent. In 2011, I got a job with KDKA in Pittsburgh. I started in September and everything was going great. 6 weeks into that job, it was a Sunday morning and I was meeting Gabby and Beth to go for a really quick run right in my neighborhood. We're about 2 miles into the run and Susan sprinted ahead of us.
She got to the end of the bridge and leaned over like she was winded.
When I approached Susan, I thought she was just, winded and out of breath. I leaned over to her and I saw her kind of having some labored breathing. And I scooped her up asking, and she was not responsive. And then her eyes started to roll in the back of her head and she started to convulse. And I laid her back down and I got up, ran across the street to a nursing home. As I was running across the street, one of Susan's neighbors happened to be walking by and I said, call Jim.
I was outside cleaning up leaves and my neighbor came out of her house and said, Susan's down.
I stayed behind with Susan, and when she turned just the most profound shade of blue, we knew it was terrible. I was in the midst of checking her carotid pulse when a car spontaneously stopped and 2 people popped out that happened to be medical students.
So I got out of the car to see if we could provide any assistance. When we first initially realized how critical the situation was and she didn't have a pulse and she was unresponsive and everything, we realized we had to do CPR. It was kind of frightening because we never actually done CPR on a person. It was a little bit scary. As I began pumping, her face went from being almost completely blue, especially around the edges, to becoming more and more pink.
8 engine on the scene, female down unconscious, unresponsive.
I got to the scene and they were putting Susan on the stretcher. I jumped in an EMS vehicle and they took me to the emergency department. I looked at my wife. She was in a stable rhythm on the monitor in the ER, but she was still not responding. She did not have a normal breathing pattern. The overwhelming fear and concern is that my wife essentially would be a vegetable. I had no idea whether or not Susan would wake up and be Susan, and frankly, whether she would wake up at all. And that's not an easy thing to think about when you have 3 children. And immediately you start thinking, am I good enough to provide for my children? I then had the children record messages to Susan.
I love you, Mama. I hope you feel better. Mommy, I love you. I wish you feel better. I hope you feel better, and I love you.
There was intense anxiety, and the moments leading up to removing the breathing tube, I was encouraged, but in the back of my mind, I was incredibly fearful that we would take the breathing tube out and Susan wouldn't be there.